Welcome, guys. So, I want to talk about money and define what money truly is, because here's the reality. If you are feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, in burnout, if you're feeling disheartened, if you have anxiety, financial anxieties, it's simply because you don't understand money. You don't understand what it really is and how it really works. And honestly, it's not really your fault. You're just going off what everyone else taught you about money. And this entire system, this entire society is made up of people that are very misinformed and super miseducated about what this resource and tool really, really is. So my name is Kat Howell. I'm the founder of the Flow Protocols, a program for high performance conscious alphas where we discover how to turn play into profit. And a big part of what we do is money, 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 money. Now, my discovery into money is it's kind of deliciously ironic that I'm talking about money right now, because if you had known me through my years, you certainly would never expect me to be somebody to give advice to anybody else about money. Certainly not. But life is deliciously ironic in that way, and it couldn't have been scripted in a better bloody way. But my start with cash started off with hardworking parents, as many of you guys here. They worked a lot. They liked what they did. They actually loved what they did, but they barely scraped by financially. We lived in these apartment complexes. We had tape in the kitchen for cockroaches. And I'm not saying, my little violin, like, ooh, I had such a bad upbringing. On the contrary, my parents were great parents and they did the best that they could given what they knew about this resource. But I recall very vividly as a young child feeling tension the tension of my mother not being able to pay an invoice, or stressing out over having to pay an invoice, and picking this up, absorbing this as a child. And from a very young age, not only determining, observing that, hey, money, people treat you differently when you have money. People respect you more. So money equals happiness, equals worthiness, equals success, right? I very much set a compass to that. And I very much had an unhealthy relationship with it. The way that I perceived money was this difficult thing that was hard to get, that required a lot of sacrifice. It was the luck of the draw. You needed to be well connected, know the right people. And then if you're lucky, you'll make money. And in fact, there was a very evil, greedy connotation to money, because I was told growing up that rich people were responsible for a lot of the scams and betrayals and fucking other people over, et cetera, et cetera. So I grew up with a very tainted idea of money. And as a result, because of my social influences, tribal influences, I had a lot of resistance and a really messed up relationship with it throughout most of my early adulthood. When I went into stripping illegally in my late teens, I made a lot of money, but I could never keep it around. It was always gone. And this continued in my 20s. When I went off and decided to do my own business, I invested a lot of money. It never came back. I suffered some failures. I went out freelancing, and for 3 years, I did every strategy in the book: cold calling, reaching out, all the funnels, lead magnets, all these things, and getting nowhere financially, nowhere. Barely able to sustain a 5K month. And it was just all over the place, constantly stressed out. And it was in 2017 when I finally broke through and was able, with the help of a mentor and some really basic techniques back then, I was able to receive large sums of money. And it happened like that. After 3 years of pushing and never getting anywhere in my business, within the space of a month, I went from $5K to $80,000 the next month. And then the following month, I hit $100,000. Within 3 years, I'd made $20 million in that company. It was surreal. It was insane. I got a bit cocky. I thought I was on top of the world. Now, the problem was at that time, because my compass had always been set as money equals success, equals worthiness, equals happiness. Those of you guys who have cracked the money part of receiving cash will know that that is not how it goes down. Money does not make you happy. It certainly makes life more enjoyable. But if you went into that relationship with no self-worth, without well-being in place, money is not going to solve that. In fact, it makes it worse, because you're standing at the peak of the mountain going, oh, I've conquered this thing, now what? And it's such an empty feeling, right? It was almost better chasing it because you had a purpose, you had a thing, than standing there and going, oh shit, this didn't do the thing I thought it would do in my life. And I became very unfulfilled in my company. This multi-million-dollar, 8-figure company, huge team, beautiful offices, everything I had envisioned. I had followers all over the world. I was kind of this mini celebrity in the Facebook ad space and the agency space. And yet, behind the doors, I was depressed. I was unfulfilled. I was stuck. Deeply, deeply felt stuck. I felt trapped by the money. I felt truly trapped by the money, because in my head, my soul was just screaming out for change, for variety. I'm a typical entrepreneur. I have shiny object syndrome. I churn and burn through ideas, which, by the way, is a strength if you have that. It is not a weakness. You probably got diagnosed with ADHD and you think that that's a weakness. It's your superpower. Never suppress that, okay? But I was feeling like I needed to creatively express in other ways. And yet here I was thinking, well, you know, I've just built this big company. Who am I to walk away? Who does that? That's failure. After, 7 years of trying to build this thing, you finally have it. Why would you walk away? I felt like I had duties to my employees, to my company, and I really felt trapped by the money because I was earning fantastic money. Who walks away from that, right? And the longer that I ignored this dialogue that was happening within me, the deeper a depression set in, and nobody had any clue around me. I was a functioning depressive for about 2 years, and no one knew. No one had a clue that that was happening. And initially, while the depression happened once in a while, it was fleeting and it passed. As the years passed, it got progressively closer. And towards the second year, the end of that second year, I was actively contemplating suicide almost on a daily basis. It got that bad. Now, here's the best part of it. Here I was all along thinking, why am I depressed? I don't know. Maybe it's my hormones. Maybe it's the chemicals. Maybe it's genetics. Maybe it's because I've had this my whole life. And I was really confused. I couldn't understand why I was feeling depressed. Of course, when you're in it, you kind of have blinders sometimes, right? And that's why accountability is a really powerful thing to invest in your life, because I had blinders and I couldn't see what I see now, which is very clear and very obvious of why I was having this depression and what it was really trying to communicate to me, right? I had become trapped by the thing that I had created. I had become trapped by the money. And I went into a mental breakdown. I had a mental breakdown of all mental breakdowns. I walked into this office. I resigned as CEO, effective as immediately, and I was gone out of that business. I was prepared to lose everything at that stage, purely because I had gotten to a stage where I was about to take my life, and I actively attempted to do that on 3 or 4 counts. And I realized this is not worth it. The money is not worth it. The company is not worth it. I'm stepping away. Whatever happens, happens. And Unfortunately, it took a mental breakdown for me to come to the realizations of the things I'm going to share with you today. But what I want to encouragingly say is that a mental breakdown is optional. You can create conscious transformation and get yourself out of any situation you're feeling stuck in. Feeling stuck is an illusion. You are never stuck, my friend. And you can do this without the mental breakdown, okay? For me, it took me to go to a rock bottom to finally wake up and to finally move forward and reestablish a different kind of relationship with money. Because the relationship with money I'd had up until now required sacrifice. Always, always sacrifice. When I was a stripper, it was hustle. I had to hustle, and it was also my body, right? It was hustle and a part of me. When I was a freelancer, it was my time. It was working hard. It was the weekends. It was texting and emailing clients back late at night. And then when I became really successful and had a huge team, lo and behold, what the hell happened? I was still overwhelmed. I was still burnt out. I was still putting out fire after fire. And I truly believed that if I didn't have this frenetic energy, this exhaustive energy of overwhelm behind everything that I did, the house of cards was going to fall down. I think I picked up this belief through my parents and observations of other people in society, but also because I am a high visionary, have lots of ideas, they pop like this, and I'm like, ooh, ooh, ooh. Most of them don't fly, but some of them stick, right? And that's the way I innovate. That's the way I operate. And it's so healthy and important for the innovation curve of a society. So it's a huge benefit that there's people like us that operate in this way. But when I was exploring all these different ideas, I would shift my focus here, and then this would start to go down. Or I'd go, ooh, this is shiny, and then this would start to crumble. So in my mind, I associated, well, I need to be deeply involved, deeply focused, deeply energetically behind every income stream that I have, otherwise, right? Thankfully, I had a mental breakdown, and it led to a very clean slate, a super clean foundation from which I had the opportunity to rebuild myself. At that stage, the company had been hitting revenue plateaus for a solid year and a half. No matter what I did, nothing worked. No matter who I hired, what agency I brought on, it never shifted the needle. And then as the depression got worse, it started to veer towards bankruptcy. And I got rid of all my nice stuff. I got rid of my nice car. I got rid of the beautiful multi-million-dollar home. I lost a lot of money making a bad decision there. And it was a really difficult time of my life. I was stripped of everything that I had been hiding behind as my sense of self-worth, the accolades, the awards, the 2 comma clubs, all these things, the flash car. People treat you differently when you have a nice car, FYI. And so when that car got taken away, whew, and there was no real confidence, there was no real substance behind who I was and my well-being, I had to find the space to find my hand and pull myself out of that darkness. And that was a super hard time, but it was also a very beautiful time because it gave me the opportunity to reinvent the relationship that I had with money. I knew for a fact I could never go back into the relationship that I had in my business the way that I had and continue operating in that way. There's no way I was ever going to allow that to happen. And as a result of that, I was able to create a relationship where the more I play, the more I relax, the more I spend time with my kids or go for a hike or go do things that I actually want, the more money comes my way. And I don't just mean through investments or offers or things that I'm doing out there. It's just money randomly coming and dropping in the most random ways. Like, for example, today I go and go to a clinic for a facial, and the girl tells me that I've accidentally been overpaying them for a year and they owe me $1,600. Like, what the hell? I wasn't even aware that I was doing that. And stuff like this happens to me all the time. So I want to show you guys how to crack into that, because once you start to operate on this level, you see people that advocate hustle, you see people that talk about that stuff, and you realize how fucking weird it sounds and how disillusioned it is. Money never requires or asks of any kind of sacrifice, not time, not sweat, not psychological, ever, ever, ever. But of course, that's a triggering idea to you. You're here thinking, nah, Kat, I'm a startup. I'm just getting started. I don't have enough skills. I don't have enough qualifications. I haven't been doing this for long enough. I got to earn my stripes. I got to earn my stripes and work hard and hustle. Or you're thinking, nah, Kat, like I need to hire an operations person and then put systems in place and then I'll be able to do what I want, right? Like that's not how life works, Kat. You can't just step away and go into play and make money. Absolutely, you can. So listen up. This is what we're going to be covering today. This stuff is going to bend your mind a little bit, and that's great. A lot of the concepts in here are probably going to be fresh for you, things that you haven't heard before. I'm going to avoid talking about anything quantum or anything spiritual. I'm going to veer really clear of those words or anything relating to that, not because I don't buy into those things. I'm way down a rabbit hole already. I've drank some strong Kool-Aid, not because of that, but because I'm speaking to the 20-year-old version of myself, this woman who needed to hear these ideas back then. It would have saved her so much grief. But she was too much of a rational thinker to buy into quantum and spiritual. As much as she rationally got those concepts, it was impossible for her to fully believe that you can manifest abundance without effort, right? Easy money. Ooh. Like that's hard to believe when the scientists can't even explain their own science, right? So that's who I'm going to be speaking to today. I'm going to be speaking in common sense, layman terms, like we're going to keep it super firm footing on reality, because I'm guessing that if you're in overwhelm, if you're feeling trapped, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling anxious, or any of those things, it's because you haven't really taken that full leap of faith in how to operate money and cash in your life. And that's probably because your brain and the back of your head, when you're trying to affirm yourself and do vision boards, is like, yeah, fucking right. Good luck with that. You don't fully buy into it as much as you want to, right? As much as you do all these courses and read all these things. So we're going to explain things in layman terms, so it's super bloody simple for you to understand. First things first is I want to invite you to answer this question. What is money? What is money? Do you guys know what is money? So it's really important that we define what money is if we're going to learn how to attract big sums, surpluses, if we're going to learn how to turn play into profit and to make more money the more well we are, right? So contrary to what you might think, money is not a thing. It's not an actual thing. Here's how I know this to be true. Money can take any physical or energetic representation, right? It can be represented in a gold bar. It can be represented as paper money. It can be represented as an NFT, as crypto, as investments, as a house. Heck, somewhere around the world, somewhere as well, a t-shirt was used as a form of currency. It's happened. Anything can be money. My hair, my body, my t-shirts, anything. Money can take on any form. And in the past, it used to be seashells, right? And the reason for that is because it's not an actual thing. It can be symbolized through anything because it's not an actual thing. What it is a representation of something. It represents something. Can you guess what that is? It represents an exchange of value. It represents value, right? I give you my t-shirt, you're going to mow my lawns, right? Value, there's a value exchange. The guy who mowed my lawn, he liked my t-shirt. He thought it was fair. I gave him my t-shirt because I thought that was fair. It's an exchange of value. It's two parties that are exchanging value between each other. And money is basically what represents that specific exchange. So if you think about it, because of that, it's almost kind of like a mathematical equation, right? It's something that can only exist in the human mind. It's something that can only ever be created by a human mind, right? Just like mathematical equations. And it's infinite because of that, right? We have a value called infinity because you can never run out of mathematical equations. You can just make as many up in your brain as you want. Same thing with money. Now, let's define value, because this is where people get really stuck, and this is usually the reason people don't make money. They don't know what value is. They cannot define value. So see if you can actually define value for a minute. What do you think value is? Well, in layman terms, and if you look online at the definition, the dictionary definition of it, value is simply a worth that we ascribe to something, right? It's a worth that we ascribe to a thing or something. That's all it is. So I see a seashell and I go, that is worth $2. Or I see a lamp and I go, that is worth $6. Or somebody does my campaigns for me and I go, that is worth $5,000, right? So the value is just the worth that I have ascribed to that thing. Does that make sense? So here's where it gets really warpy, because if it's just a value that you ascribe to a thing, to something, right, then right away, you know, well, it's only existing in a human mind, because for sure, you cannot transact with a giraffe. You cannot transact with a squirrel. If you try to give a squirrel a gold bar for some of his nuts, he's going to rip your face off. Doesn't matter how many gold bars you got, right? He's not going to get it. So value only really exists in a human mind. It's created by a human brain. It is infinite because of that, because humans will always find ways to create value. We literally ascribe value to every bloody thing in our lives, to everything that we do. And so it's infinite. And what's really, really exciting about this, guys, is that if you're watching this, you have a human brain. You are in possession of the thing that manufactures money. It's not printing machines that manufacture money. It's not the government that makes money, which is actually probably a news flash for you, right? For a lot of people, they're like, what? No, it's not. Money can be anything, right? NFTs are not created by governments. Value is not created by governments. Value is created by the human brain. And so you have a human brain. You have the manufacturing tool required to print a lot of fucking cash, to make a lot of fucking money. The caveat to that would be if you've had a lot of concussions in your life or you've been lobotomized, potentially you might have a harder time at doing that. But otherwise, the good news is you can make a lot of money because you have the same thing that I have, the same thing that everybody else that has money, a human imagination, a human mind. But when we don't understand value fully, it's difficult for us to create it in our mind. So let's look at value. Let's take a deep dive in here because this is an important piece. How do you assign value? Well, let's start off by saying value is relative, okay? So how much would you say you would pay for getting an email set up? Most people would say like $5, maybe $200 to get someone to set up your Gmail account, right? Well, there's some people that will pay $4,000 for that. I say that confidently because that's what I paid. That's what I paid not so long ago to help get somebody in and just set everything up, because for me, the value of paying that much was that I didn't have to mess around on Fiverr and find the people and interview them and look at their portfolios and find out which one's right and which one's not. B, I wouldn't have even had a clue how to how to tell them what I needed to be done properly, and see the cost of not getting it done in time and the cost of not doing it properly was far more than the cost that it cost me for that. So I assigned a really high value, but somebody else would have assigned a really low value to that. Let's look at another example. Let's say family photos. Which one would you take? I'm going to burn all your photos or $50,000. Which one are you going to take? That's a tough one, right? You're going to be like, I might keep my photos. That's a lot of money, but I'm going to keep my photos, right? But if you ask me that about your photos and we're like, Kat, you want 50K or you want to keep this person's photos? Now, if I like you and I'm your friend, and obviously if there's rapport, I'll keep your photos. But if someone offers me 5 million, I'm definitely thinking twice about it because your photos have zero value to me. Zero, right? Aside from the friendship and retaining that. So, but it's interesting how to you, the photos is like 50K, $500,000. Let's look at another example. NFTs. How much would you pay for a piece of land in an imaginary world that doesn't exist, that is super scalable and super replenishable, right? $5, $50, 50,000, 5 million. Well, guess what? People are paying it at every level. And so value, it's super relative, right? And every single reality tunnel, every single different perspective on this planet is going to ascribe value differently to other people, which is really exciting. Because what this means for you is A, not only is money just value, B, that means it's created in a human mind. No other species will transact value like that with you. Try to give a tree try to transact with a tree. It's not going to go down that well, right? And so you have a human mind. You can create this money. 3, value is relative, meaning there's no such thing as set value. You can ascribe any value that you want to anything, and somebody somewhere with the right tunnel will see that value as well. So this is really, really exciting news. Now, just as a bit of a point here on how we normally ascribe value, there's different layers to value. For example, people will value convenience. And if you own an agency or a done-for-you type of offer, that's usually what people are buying, the convenience of not having to do it and learn it themselves. That is really valuable. People will ascribe value to function, right? So you come and mow my lawns, or you come and fix a window or something like that. There's a functional value to it. Usually functional value is tied to time, like sweat equity. And usually it's the lowest value we ascribe out of any form of value. There's also experiential value. An experience like a retreat is an example of experiential value. We will pay for experiences. We value experiences, right? What else do we value? We value convenience. We value experiences. We value function. We value symbolization. Oh, symbolic value. Symbolic value is the one people will pay the most for. NFTs is a good example because it's a membership, it's a community, it represents something. People use the profile photos of their NFT. That's how much they're into it, right? They're like, look, because it's their badge of honor, and they will pay $300K for that. They'll drop it down just to be able to go, see, I own that, right? Symbolic value is a wedding. People spend $50K on a wedding on one day, and you're trying to tell me you can't charge $5K for marketing services? That's because you don't understand the value. That's not your client's fault. It's you're talking to the wrong people that have the wrong value, right? They're assigning it the wrong way. But if people are paying $50,000 for a one-day wedding, I mean, you just get shit-faced and then it's over just like that. Symbolic value, right? So there's a lot of things we value as humans. It's not just time. And this is where we want to detach this idea that your time is your value. Time is functional value. And as I've just listed out here, it's the one we pay the least for. If you try to show up and you're trying to manifest cash and abundance, and the way you're transacting value is through your time or sweat equity or psychological sacrifice, it's not going to go down that well. And that's why you're stuck, you're overwhelmed, you're unable to bring the cash in, right? So value is we value things on so many different levels. And if you can hit the symbolic, the experiential, those types of dimensions of value, you will have a really easy time positioning that value to other people. Making sense? I know this is, it is common sense in my brain, and I don't know if this is like too out there for you guys, because it makes a lot of sense to me. So if it makes sense to you, let me know, because I'd love to at least get some feedback if this is landing the right way. But in general, it's pretty common sense. The human brain creates money, it creates value. So when you understand this, by the way, you realize how this whole idea of take from the rich and give to the poor is so fucking wrong and twisted. It doesn't even make sense, because if money is created in a human brain and it's just value, and humans will assign value to any fucking thing, anything, we literally will assign value to it across many dimensions. It's therefore infinite, right? It's infinite, and it compounds, it multiplies. It's like a petri dish. So there's no such thing as a pie, right? You see, if it's infinite, how can there be a pie? So the idea of we got to take from somebody, or if I take from you, if I get rich, it takes from you. No, at all. If you get rich, it means many other people around you are getting rich, because it means there's been value transacting, right? It means many people around you are really happy. The ripple effect is huge. So why I bring up this whole take from rich, give to poor is because this is just one example of the things that is very prolific in our society, right? It's romanticized in movies, this idea of the Robin Hood thing. And it just goes to show how miseducated society is about money. Because when you talk about taking from the poor to give, taking from the rich to give to the poor, your structure is a pie. You're thinking it's a pie, so we must take from this group to give to this so that it evens the pie. It's not a fucking pie. It's infinite. It's bloody infinite. So if you want to help poor people, you educate them on value and money. You help their brain create money. You help them value themselves, which is the next point I want to come to here. If the human brain creates value, creates money, if everybody with money right now has it because they've created it in their brain, that value, it's a fair comment. It's a fair comment to say, right? When it's just common sense to say that if the human brain creates value, it will be easier for you to create value if you value yourself. Common sense, right? So this is where you guys are going, yeah, okay, I get it. It makes sense, but how the hell do I do this? So here's the reasons why you don't have the money that you want or that you desire. Here's the reasons why we struggle to create value. First reason is that you are operating out of alignment. Meaning, I know that that's a spiritual word, but for lack of a better word, alignment just means you're overwhelmed, you're burned out, you're depressed, you're anxious, you're frustrated, you're totally unfulfilled, right? You're operating out of alignment. It is very difficult for you to value yourself when you are depressed, anxious, overwhelmed, disheartened, and bored as fuck. Would you agree? It's just common sense, right? Why is it hard? Well, when we're depressed or anxious or overwhelmed or any of these unaligned states, these red light states, as I call them, these red light emotions, when we're operating in that, by default, it means we have conditions around our well-being. When I make this money, then I will be happy. When this bank account looks like this, then I'll relax. When I have the team in place that I want, then I'll be able to play where I actually want to play. When then. And any red light emotion, if you've been operating in red light states, unaligned states for a minute, it means you have a condition. It means there are conditions around your well-being, which by default means you have fucking forgotten yourself, because you don't need a single fucking thing to feel well, my friend. And if that's the first time you're hearing that in your life, I'm really sorry, but you deserve to hear this a million bloody times per day. You are capable of feeling well with nothing, stripped of everything. I know this because while I didn't lose every single thing, like my family, for example, I got stripped down pretty close to the raw bare nail 2 years ago. And guess what? Hey, I didn't have my car. I was driving a busted Nissan. I downgraded. I was living in these shitty Airbnbs that were like tiny after this luxury thing. Stripped everything away and somehow managed to find a place of just beautiful well-being, of just surrendering and happiness, right? So I know this. You might be scared and be thinking, but I don't want to lose all by the way, you don't have to lose all your shit to find well-being. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you is that if you have conditions around your well-being, that's the problem. Because when we have conditions around our well-being, we've forgotten ourselves. And if we've forgotten ourselves, we're not valuing ourselves. Like, that's pretty common sense as well. To be clear, depressed people can make money, can make a lot of money. I've seen it happen, and I was making money, although it was starting to go downhill. So it's usually not sustainable. Usually when somebody hits depression, you're going to find bankruptcy looming pretty soon. And if not, it's luck of the draw. They really got lucky with that, because when you are operating in red light states, all you usually get back is more of that shit. When you're financially anxious, all you get back is more financial anxiety. I'm not going to go into like mirroring in this call, but if you're interested in learning more about that, check out the other masterclass that I did at theflowprotocols.com. And again, I explain it all in common sense, layman terms, but super important foundations for you to grasp to really understand all of the concepts I'm trying to explain today. But I mean, maybe some of you guys recognize that. If you've been overwhelmed for a while, what do you notice? All your team get overwhelmed. So you're contagious as fuck. Emotions are really contagious, by the way. All your team end up getting overwhelmed. And then there's just more fires, more shit, more. It never ends. It never bloody ends. You know this. You intuitively are like, So even though you might not fully grasp mirroring yet, you don't need to. You intuitively have experienced these ideas and these concepts. Number 2, why you are not creating value in your mind the way that you need to is that you have lost your confidence. You're not confident about what you're selling anymore, and or you're out of integrity with it. You know that what you're selling is not good, no bueno. And I hit this in my business when I first started scaling. So when I went from freelancer 5K to 80K months, and then the next month 100K, I went from one person, me, to having a team of 8 within 2 months. And I never managed a team like that in my life. And I didn't know about processes, and I didn't know that all these things were a thing in business. And we were dropping the ball. We were working with these clients, but dropping the ball and not delivering the results. And my confidence just left the building. I was like, oh shit. And even though I was getting on sales calls after sales calls, nothing was closing. I remember I got on like 40 calls at one stage. Not a single one of them closed. Like, what kind of a close rate is that, right? And that was because I didn't believe in my product. And luckily, I've always invested in mentors my whole entrepreneurial career. Although what's interesting, guys, is that when I started to experience the depression, I didn't have a mentor. So, Strong correlation, interesting correlation anyways. But my mentor at the time said, Kat, stop everything you're doing. You need to focus on the getting your confidence back in your product. There's no point getting on a single other sales call. Stop everything, rebuild your confidence, and then go from there. And luckily, I followed that advice, and we were able to avoid that whole sinking immediately after like exploding, right? But if you don't have confidence in what you're selling, it's going to be really, really hard to bring money to you. And likewise, if you're out of integrity with it, if you are, if you look at people that are scam artists or Ponzi schemes or like second car salesmen, like dodgy second car salesmen who make a lot of money, and you're going, yeah, but how does that work? They're so out of integrity. What you'll find is when you speak to these people, they don't think they're doing anything wrong. Like in their brains, they're actually like, yeah, this is great, you know? And the moment usually those people clue on to like what they're really doing, it gets really hard to bring that money, or they lose it, or they get caught, or something happens, right? So again, when we're out of integrity, that is also an important thing to address, because you're not going to be able to create value if you know that you got no value, or you don't know the value that you're offering, right? Or you think the value is like not there, right? Make sense? And third reason why you struggle to create value right now in your life or your business is you are so unfulfilled. You're just like, you checked out. You're like, oh, fuck, kill me now. You go to work and you're like, oh, another day. It's the same fucking shit. Like, oh my God, again, conditions. When I don't have to do this anymore, then I'll feel purposeful. Then I'll feel excited. Then I'll feel free. When I set this up and my processes and my automations, then I'll be able to go over here and do the thing that I actually want to do, right? When then, conditions. If you are unfulfilled, oof. I remember when I was in the academy running that agency growth program, people that came to us with revenue plateaus or declining revenues, I would always ask them, hey, are you overwhelmed? Are you burned out? Why? Because if you're overwhelmed and burnt out, there's no way your subconscious is going to let you grow that fucking show. No way. As much as you think you want money and you think you're motivated by it, unless you're homeless, very few people are motivated that way by money. Your subconscious willpower will always win against money. Always. And so if you have a structure right now where sacrifice is required for money, where I have to be overwhelmed and in this frenetic, energetic state in order to keep this whole house of cards going, your subconscious is like, fuck that shit. I ain't growing this shit. No matter who you hire, what you do, you will sabotage that. And that's what revenue ceilings are, by the way, usually. Usually that's what they're caused by, right? So you really got to address that. If you're not digging what you're doing, why the fuck are you doing it? Why? Oh, because I have a mortgage, because money is scarce. Money's in your fucking brain. One thing I didn't cover before when I was explaining money and value is that this idea that if the human brain creates value, if the human brain is what creates money, is it not a fair comment to say as well that whatever creates something is always worthy of it, right? Like if a bird builds a nest, he's worthy of his nest. He's always worthy of the nest. He's always worthy of many nests. He can fucking burn his nest. He can pull it to the ground. He can build a small one, a big one, 10, if a bigger one. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. He's the motherfucking bird, right? Same as you. Same as you. You are so worthy of money. Why? Because you're in possession of the thing that manufactures it. And the thing that manufactures it by default is worthy of it. There's nothing missing from you. You don't need more courses. You don't need more case studies, more experience, nothing. There's no process or system or team member or nothing, I'm telling you. You are worthy of this value, but you're not creating that value. And the reason you're not creating that value is because of the reasons I've listed here, right? You're in overwhelm, you're unfulfilled, you're in a red light state, you have no more confidence. Now, the last reason that I want to point out here is that you're afraid of it. What do I mean by this? Because most people would scoff, like, nah, I'm not afraid of money, bring it on. But the truth is, if most of us have been raised with tribal influences where money is greedy, it's evil, it's, you know, it's the bane of our existence or whatever. And that is prolific. So most of us at some degree have this fear of money because our tribal connections, again, our tribal connections are stronger than our desire for money. Our desire to fit in is so intrinsic to the human that it doesn't matter how much money you put in front of somebody. If they think they're going to be looked down at by their peers or look differently, they will get rid of that money really, really fast, okay? So if we're afraid of cash or success, or we think it's evil, or we don't, you know, it doesn't fit in with our idea, we have an unhealthy image or relationship with it, for sure. It doesn't matter how happy you are. It doesn't matter how much in flow you are. If that's the case, you won't create value. You just won't. You won't invent it in your brain, right? So those are the main reasons why you're not creating value for yourself, in your life, in your business, because when you step into unconditional well-being, when you allow yourself to play the way that you want to play, when you actually shift the way that you view money and you actually educate yourself and see it and understand it for what it really is, which is just a value exchange, and you begin to fucking value yourself just as you are. Just you, nothing else. No fucking funnels, no teams behind you, just you. Then, my friends, then this is when you lock in that kind of relationship I'm talking about. The kind of relationship I want you guys to tap into. The kind of relationship with cash that is nurturing, supportive, that is compounding, that is replenishing, that is surpluses. Now, these ideas, by the way, are intended for what I call conscious alphas, individuals who do not operate in competition. They operate from a space of creation. They know how to create a lot of value in their minds. They know how to receive it. And when money gets behind these individuals, everybody benefits, period. Even if all that person did was buy a private jet, it would employ lots of people. The ripple effect would be huge. The value shifted and created would be a ripple effect. Everybody benefits. Every single person benefits, okay? So you deserve this money for our sake, for everybody's sake. Because if you have big ideas and you want to expand and experience your fucking life, you are literally the embodiment of life, your consciousness. Not only are you consciousness, but your consciousness in possession of the highest fucking tool in this known universe, which is the creative imagination, which is what's allowing me to record this fucking thing on Zoom, going to space and satellites and all this shit. That's all from a human imagination. We create anything we want. You lock us in lockdowns, you separate us, and what do? We're such social creatures, we invent a metaverse. We are crazy motherfuckers, and you possess that tool. You are life, and an underlying law of this universe is that life, the universe expands. There is expansion. We don't know why, but there's expansion. It's true. It's happening. It's real. Evolution, the galaxies, all of that. And this is why you're always going to want more. It's never enough. You're always going to want to try different things because you're life. You are life itself. You're always going to want to expand. You're always going to be upgrading your seashell, right? But what we don't want is to be operating from a space of conditional well-being, and then it's like manic fucking chasing. It's exhausting. It's like, when is it enough? I'm never happy. I have 1 million. I have 10 million. I have 100 million, right? Like these multi-millionaires, like I was, like, you know, depressed as fuck. What the hell? Not supposed to be like that. Like, money is a tool to help life expand, to help you expand, and it gets better. It gets more delicious. It's fucking great to have money in your life. I love money. But now I look after my well-being first and foremost. The way I approach money is from a space of unconditional well-being. I set boundaries on my flow, on my play, on what makes me feel well, and I am supported as a result because of this money. It comes to me in the most amazing, delicious of ways. It supports me. It's always replenishing at the level that I need it to. It always comes back to me. That's the relationship that I have with cash. And I've seen many people unlock this type of relationship with these same exact principles. It sounds too simple to be true. It almost sounds counterintuitive, but they are very, very, very powerful principles. Okay, so now what you're asking is, got it, makes sense, love it, that's what I want, cash, easy, surplus is nurturing. How the fuck do I unlock unconditional well-being? Well, my friends, you're in luck, because this is exactly what I had to do when I hit that rock bottom. It was like the pennies fucking dropping of the work that I had done to initially attract money was the same thing I needed to do for my worthiness, for my sense of love. I was depressed, right? So depression is the cutoff from love. And when I connected the dots in that way, it was a totally different way of life, and I can never go back. I can never go back after experiencing this. There's no way I could ever end up in overwhelm over a long period of time in a business again, because I know that that's not true. That's not required for money. That was just an idea I was subscribing myself to. That was an idea that I had subscribed myself to, that my value was in my exertion, in my frenetic energy, in my time. And what the overwhelm was really trying to tell me at that time was like, you're wrong, Kat. You're bloody wrong. But I wasn't understanding my emotions that way. I wasn't clued on properly, right? I was super like, why am I depressed? Ugh, I don't know. And so I want to invite you to take this further, because the truth of the matter is, unconditional well-being is definitely easier said than done. It's not complicated. It's not hard. It's actually very simple, but it does require some accountability, because most of us are super blind spotted by what we're actually experiencing, and we have no way which way is right or left. And the truth is, if we knew how to do that for ourselves, we would already be out of overwhelm. We would already be happy. We would already be in flow. We would already be there. And if you're not there, and you've been sustaining anxiety, depression, overwhelm, burnout, frustration, unfulfillment for a minute now, then the truth is, you probably need my hand to help you pull yourself back into yourself. And if that resonates, if that's something that you're interested in, if you want to take this further, unlock unconditional well-being, normalize cash through tribal influences. Ooh, magic happens when you do that. Then I want to invite you to link up with us on the back of this. Reach out and see if it's a good fit. And if it's a good fit, we're going to invite you to work with me, and it's going to be a game changer. You're going to unlock some protocols that are going to show you exactly how to turn that play into profit, how to step back into a green light. I'm going to show you how to not only get into flow, but sustain that state of flow as well. And once you're in there, we're going to start amplifying. So we'll start playing around with value. I'll teach you how to get your mind to see value and to create it everywhere, that it's going to value you just as you are. Because the moment that happens, boom, fat bank accounts, guys. And this is what it's about: nurturing without sacrifice, conscious alphas with big money behind them. If that has your name on it, get in touch. Let's chat. Let's change the narrative. Let's change this fucking society and like education of cash. Let's be a ripple effect, because I promise you, it is so fucking selfish of you to withhold yourself from the tool, from the resource that will allow you to grow and expand that you're desiring. Why are you doing that? It's so selfish. We all benefit when it's behind you. We all benefit when your brain knows how to create it. It's not taking from anybody. It's helping everybody. And so stop being selfish. Let's fix this once and for all. I promise you, you will never operate the same way on the back of this. If that sounds good, I'll see you guys on the other side. Regardless of the decision you take, thank you so much for hearing me out. I'd love to hear some feedback. It's what I kind of like jive off of. Let me know what resonated with you. And regardless of which direction you go today, may you journey safely. And remember, my friends, you are deserving of it all. And anything else is a choice.